What is happening, YouTube? My name's Immortal Coil, your future minister of whiskey mysticism, and this is the Savage Perspective, detailing the news of the Wierd for the week of this week, beginning with last week. I think Tuesday, May the Revenge of the Sixth, was the last time I spoke with you guys. Before we get started, let's go ahead and say, hail Kermit the Log, my fellow trans-fattian, the Cotton Connection, Mr. Big Green Peen himself. Hail Kermit the Log, check out his shit. He has a very funny show with my other good friend, Snowdub. Also in the house, we got the Memes of Destruction, saying, hey guys, what's going on? What's up, Memes of Destruction? I've heard some very good stuff about you. Definitely need to come around and check you out a little bit more. As the name suggests, you do some very savage, destructive memes. So go ahead and check both these people out, but make sure that you bring your big girl panties because they make no apologies for being who the fuck they are. Well, we've had several happenings in the world of independent news coverage. But before we get into that, I'd like to request that you guys hold high whatever it is that you're imbibing. Right now, I got a little bit of Jim Beam, and I'm backing that up with some natural ice. I know natural ice ain't quite ambrosia, but hell, it'll wet your whistle. It's a decent Boilermaker, so salute. Tastes good after a long day of construction. Well, so this is sort of a pilot program for me. I don't really get a chance to make a bunch of like everyday videos like other fandom menacers, which isn't their fault. It's mine. Aside from being a father, I work construction, and I actually make all my videos on my cell phone. I don't have like a fancy studio. I just fucking find something that tickles my pickle and run with it. So I figured that this type of stream would be a way to catch up with news that I would otherwise have shirked. Just because I can't make videos every day about every little thing that comes up. And honestly, a lot of times when I'm like, oh shit, that looks like interesting, and I might have a take on that, a bunch of other channels jump on it. So rather than fight them for a video that takes me between 3 to 5 days to produce when they're just knocking them out, pow, 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 I figured I'd hit most of these like interesting story bits midweek, and then if something really grabs my attention, that's the one that's going to be big and produced and all that kind of stuff. So once again, hail the chat. Thanks for joining. And as this show goes on, we'll have guests, we'll have plenty of fuckery, as it were. And since we're bringing up fuckery, this show is not for kids, ladies and gentlemen. I realize I'm broadcasting probably prime time if you're from the East Coast or something like that. But seriously, kids don't need to follow my example at all. You know, I'm a 39-year-old construction worker who drinks whiskey and says fuck every other word. So that's why I hang out with guys like Kermit the Log. So what's been going on? How's your friends, your family, your loved one? It's been interesting for me. I've been trying my best to keep my head on, keep my perspective where it should be, along the lines of what I was talking about before. Most recently on my channel, aside from the live streams that I attempt to do, I've been covering the Star Wars Clone Wars Season 7, each specific arc. Now, there's 3 arcs, which comprise 4 episodes each, roughly coming in at 25 to 30 minutes, depending on the story arc. I put up two videos in this vein. The first one was the Bad Batch episodes, where they go and they try to find Fives, and he's hooked up to the Matrix, apparently. And then I did a second video for the middle 4 episodes called Ahsoka Vasquez. Yes, Ahsoka Vasquez. She falls down the pit, and she runs into the Marquez sisters. Very skilled mechanics in the underbelly of Coruscant. And if you can't tell by my healthy sarcasm here, I didn't really enjoy that episode. The first arc was okay. You know, as far as Clone Wars goes, it wasn't like great, but it wasn't like terrible. I think the Martezes were terrible, just because of the identity politics. It pushes the story along, kind of, in the sense that, like, well, what did she do after she left the temple? Well, apparently she fell down a hole and met space Latinos. But the only significant thing is that at the end of the episode, at the end of the arc, rather, she was spotted by Mandalorians and recognized for who she was. And then, please come and help us free Mandalore. Okay, those 4 episodes probably didn't need to happen. And other channels have covered that. So check out my video. If you go to my Twitter, at immortal_coil, you'll find links to all that kind of shit. So I was excited. Last week we got the final episode, the final episode, not the Disney saying, fuck you, we're going to pull the plug. We got the final episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And I was very pleased with these last 4 episodes. So much so that I made this 17-minute video. Now, when I say I make all my shit from my phone, I'm not trying to say like it's grainy and I'm standing in a ATM vestibule with terrible audio. You know, I got a pretty decent editing program called Photo Director, excuse me. It's good. It does what I need it to do. It's not quite as fancy as some of the other shit, but you know, it does what I need it to do. And I figured out over the 1.5 years that I've been using it how to make pretty decent videos. I got enough friends in the Fandom Menace paying attention to my shit that, you know, and I would trust them if they said that I was putting out shit, but so far they haven't. So either they're incredibly nice to me or they actually enjoy my shit. I often joke with my buddy Snowdub, and we try to decide this. And Snowdub is the most famous channel under 1,000 subs. I still don't know why that guy doesn't have 1,000 subs. He's been around. He puts out good shit. He has a popular show that comes out every week. Sometimes he does 2 episodes a week. He's a motherfucking rapping lyricist. If you go to the mall, you'll recognize him at Christmas. He's the white rapper. But then I'm actually the best YouTube channel under 1,000 subs. Now, it makes sense to me why I'm under 1,000 subs. Like I say, I can only pump out maybe once or twice a week, which is generous, because I give you at least 10 or 15 minutes every time I pump one out. And then I try to supplement it with these live streams. We're going to try to do this. We're going to try to do this news stream in the middle of the week, and then do a Savage Spirituality. And then towards that end, I need to apologize to Lethal Lightning. We've been trying to get a stream going on Sunday for like 2-3 weeks, but whether shit's going down or like we're sick or some fucking bullshit happens. So this week we're going to try to deliver. So Lightning, if you're listening, let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, Kermit. Hail snow. Fuck yeah. And it was good. You're right. It was also good for her. that's the information that doesn't actually quite make it out so much, because if her quality experience was known, well, shit, we'd be drowning in secretions, wouldn't we, buddy? All right. So anyway, back to the agenda at hand. I made a really good video for the Clone Wars, and I titled it The Siege of Mandalore and Order 66. Now, if you haven't seen the season 7 of Clone Wars, maybe turn this stream off and go and watch it before you listen to me talk about it. But I think at this point in the game, with most people still under fucking health isolation, I always hated that term quarantine, because quarantine is when you're already sick and they lock you down so that people don't get exposed to you. This is like isolation, but it's like one of those bullshit terms. I don't like the term social distancing because it's an oxymoron. You'd be social, but you're distant at the same time. That sounds like some kid in fucking junior high at the dance who can't look at a girl. That's social distancing. Okay. So the story arc, I do like I do in every video where I talk about it. And typically here's my production process. I will see something and I'll think about it for a minute. I don't like type it out like world-class bullshitters. He's a great typist. He's very eloquent. He reads everything without stuttering. I haven't heard him. I can't hear his edits. I don't know if he does them. Probably not, because he came fully formed out of gold from the bosom of Venus, right? But that's one way of doing things. And his production is very slick. He has the background music. He has his little, like, The Rock, How's It Cooking, cartoon avatar. But what I do is I get a good idea in my head of what I want to say, and then I just riff on it, and then I edit it later. I try to do the gonzo journalism approach to things. If you don't know who Hunter S. Thompson is, go ahead and unfuck yourself. There was a couple movies where the Buffalo Roam, starring Bill Murray, excuse me. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, starring Johnny Depp, which is probably the most well-known of his movie works. And then The Rum Diaries, also starring Johnny Depp. He was also a very prolific author, and he invented something called gonzo journalism. And that's the tenet where you write drunk and you edit sober. Sounds like a good idea to me. So I'll sit there and I'll record a voice wave and I'll just dictate to myself. And I know, like, I want my videos to be between, 12 to 15 minutes. So if I bullshit with myself for about 17 minutes, then it comes in at a good time once I've edited out all the ums and ahs and dead air and that kind of shit. So I did that. I reminisced on my experience of the Siege of Mandalore and Order 66. And is it going to win a Pulitzer Prize for journalism? Probably not. But for what I do, it was satisfying. I liked it. I dug it. Enough that I thought you would dig it too. So after I get my audio track and I edit it, I go and I make a slideshow out of it. And slideshows typically either consist of still photos or a tiny bit of footage that matches up the commentary that I'm giving. And then every video that I put out, I also do that, according to the U.S. Code of Fair Use, blah, blah, blah. I'm not taking this stuff and presenting it and charging money and making it my own Nickelodeon. But this is review and commentary and critique, which is essential for artistic input. And as we move further along the program, we'll see instances where that kind of input, particularly from the Fandom Menace, although they won't exactly come out and say it, is helping to give a Jiminy Cricket to Lucasfilm as they continue on with their attempts at Star Wars-ery. So, and this video takes me about a week. It clocked in at 17 minutes, but because it's a kind of like an end cap on a series that most of us spent a lot of time with. You know, I didn't start watching the Clone Wars right when it came out, just because when it first came out, it was a cartoon, and I knew a dude that had like the Anakin tattoos that he got in the cave from the cave snails or whatever the fuck that was. He had a Anakin snail trail all over his body. And he like told me this shit in confidence. He's like, yeah, you know, I'm such a big Star Wars fan. Check this out. And he pulls his shirt aside and it's all like blue and fucking perpendicular. And I'm just like, damn, dude. And what do you say to something like that? You are a hardcore Star Wars motherfucker. Sorry if you hear the ice cream man in the background. It's not any Van Halen, but I live in a suburban neighborhood. But yeah, this dude was hardcore. What can you say? But at the same time, I was like, I don't know if I'm that hardcore that I'm going to get tattoos after watching a cartoon. So I'm going to skip that one. Continue on. The original George Lucas pre-Disney Clone Wars came out. I saw some of it, but like many people, when I first heard about Ahsoka and Anakin having a Padawan that we never heard of for some reason, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, that's bullshit. He never mentions it. She's not mentioned by anybody in the prequels. We had that one dude on Yavin Base who was like, yeah, Luke, I flew with your father. He was a motherfucker. Good luck out there. But he wasn't like, hey, I flew with your father and that weird little orange girl who I don't know how old she was, but, you know, whether she was underage or not. So I got into Clone Wars proper probably in the 6 months leading up to The Force Awakens. I don't know what it was. There was this electric feeling in the air. The anticipation for like Star Wars Celebration was really high. We knew about the sell to Disney, but we were believing George Lucas when he was like, I've left this in capable hands, and we were believing Kathleen Kennedy, oh, he has treatments and we're going to treat this like heavy respect and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, yeah, we're getting wound up for this, you know, we're, what, like a 3/4 mast, Chubby? Would you agree? I was about at 3/4 mast. But then lo and behold, we got what we got. And again, there's the ice cream person. Which reminds us, this is a kid's show. It's a kid's show. It's Space Wizards. It's not for us old people. At the time that the Force Awakens came out, I was 34, so I didn't think I was old. But apparently to Lucasfilm, I was old. And Star Wars wasn't for me anymore. So I said, oh, okay. I still watched Clone Wars. I still watched Rebels. And I thought the same thing about both. And I'm a Dave Filoni fan from way back in the Avatar: The Last Airbender phase. So while I wouldn't say every episode of Avatar is fucking gold, the really good Avatar stands out, and it's amongst the best entertainment I've ever consumed. Same thing with Clone Wars and Rebels. Yeah, not every episode was the golden egg that the goose shat, but the really good episodes were really good because you had that lore and that care and that attention. The only thing I didn't like about Rebels was the Disney fucking animation style. You know, you see Ezra's nose, you see Kanan, and even those two names, geez. Okay, my Sunday show is Savage Spirituality. I have studied world religion. I have pierced the veil. I've had every type of paranormal encounter you can think of. Ezra and Kanan are both biblical names. You think you're getting away with something, Disney? Are you trying to slip something in? Or are you just showing your true colors? I don't know. Anyway. So you get all that. And then when you kind of sew this thing together in your head, the Ahsoka Tano arc with pre-suit Anakin, we see in these last 4 episodes, Anakin falling to the dark side. She senses the shift in the Force. I don't know that she put 2 and 2 together, or maybe she did because she actually heard the "What have I done?" Maybe she was in denial. That's what my buddy Black Angus thought on our Revenge of the 5th stream. I had a couple of pretty original thoughts in my video, and I put it up, and I uploaded it, and I'm sitting there waiting, and I edited my description, and I'm chewing my nails, and I'm just like, I wonder what my friends are going to think. Like, did I do good? Am I going to get the pat on the head? Am I going to get a Scooby snack? Is somebody who knows somebody going to tell somebody with big boy pants to watch my video? Might I even get a like and a share and a subscribe? No, I didn't. Here's what I got instead. Going to share the entire screen. Here's what I got instead. Right here. Right here. I got a copyright strike, you guys. A copyright strike. Now I'm going to try to go full screen with this so you guys can see it. Okay. I don't know if this is coming in good. I don't even know if I can zoom in on this. But okay. This is if you look in the gray area up here where my cursor is, Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7 Review, The Siege of Mandalore and Order 66. The exact title of my video, which very much is a very clear title, something that even Rain Man can understand. And if you don't know Rain Man, go back to the 80s. We'll wait. Description: the savage perspective of the last 4 episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7. And this shit was up, I don't know, 5 minutes. Not even 5 minutes. Because usually I can go in and look and see some sort of pre-thing before anybody else gets to see it. Now, I'm not a huge, big channel yet, so it's not like 100 people saw it and then went, hey, Coyle, Disney's fucking with your shit. No, like I try to click it up and then pow. Copyright summary and status. Gotta have some whiskey and some beer for this. Okay, so they say these basic things to you, and if you're a YouTuber and you've never been copyright struck, this is kind of what it looks like. A couple of YouTubers who I am friendly with and I speak to on the daily have gone through shit like this. Now, it wasn't for Disney Star Wars. It was for that fucking Bad Dog video game. Now, I don't play video games, and I used to when I was like 16, but I don't anymore. If you want to play video games, fucking A. And if you want to tear it up, you can make $1 zillion playing video games for people on YouTube. But if you try to give a review to a video game, or you want to hype up a release coming out and you get struck down because of bullshit. Go talk to my buddy Lethal Lightning. He went through the ringer through this. He's part of the Geek and Gamer fucking circle. So a couple of those guys actually got struck for commenting on this kind of thing. But this is what you go through. Excuse me. You get blocked, which means that people can't watch your shit. And it's ineligible for monetization. Now, if you're monetized, that means that you can't make money off of that particular video. Typically, the people who own the copyright that they're trying to say that you infringed upon have the option of releasing the block and then them themselves absorbing whatever revenue your stream would have generated. Now, if you're somebody small like shit, I think Kermit's monetized. You know, he can't quit his job and sit back with his hose in his beachfront house and, you know, never masturbate again and just drink whatever the fuck he wants. He still has to go to work and do his shit. But this is a nice little fucking dividend for him. You know, this is probably like his drinking money, his gas money, that kind of shit. So he can go to work, come back, and make more quality Kermit the Log shit for you. But where that turns around is somebody like Star Wars Theory. When he came out with his Darth Vader video, he had tried to do the right thing, and he went to Disney and he went to Lucasfilm and he said, hey, here's what I want to do. I want to use some of your characters. It's going to be me self-producing and funding everything, but I want to put it out and I want to make sure that that's okay with you. And they were like, yeah, that's great. That's fine. You just can't make any money off of it and you can't crowdfund for it. But if you can fucking do it by yourself, we'd love to support you and we'd love to see it. Well, he put out a video. It got struck down and he had to go through this fucking circus to get it put back up. Now, he already had like several avenues to make that happen, so it wasn't quite as drastic for him. But with me, what they did, if you look right here, about just shy of 12 minutes, they saw the scene from and it's computers that matches up the shit. It's not like somebody from Disney's paid to watch Immortal Coil on fucking YouTube, because I love every 200 of you guys, but I'm not fucking popular. I'm not making any money off of this right now. I'm doing this because I love Star Wars and I love the people who love Star Wars, and I'm pissed off about what's happening with Star Wars. So I'm doing this review, and this review is actually positive. I say some potty words, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, yeah, this shit was awesome. That shit's awesome. I liked when this thing happened. I liked when that thing happened. This one was kind of stupid, but it was pretty fucking cool at the same time. What this is right here, there's a scene where Ahsoka is jumping off of the ship that's being blown up. It's crashing on a moon, and she has to somehow get off the ship and jump into a fighter that her buddy Rex is flying. So this is a video capture that's about probably a little bit longer than 10 seconds. She runs down the wing of this fucker and like jumps off, and she's doing a free form halo dive, and lands in the cockpit, and they fly away. Well, Disney's fucking Pluto software saw this, and because it matched something that was in its up its Pluto ass, it was like, nope, fuck this channel, fuck this guy, he's not going to get anywhere. Strike, copyright strike. Yep, that's right, little old coil. It's not really that little, and maybe that's what they're scared of. Yeah. Okay, gonna exit out of this. So I did the thing that you're supposed to do Oh, Kermit. He's not monetized. Okay. I see that, buddy. Sorry about that. Everybody go fucking subscribe to Kermit. Let's help get him monetized. You need to pay that frog. So I did the right thing and I submitted a copyright dispute. And when you go through the steps of a copyright dispute, you're supposed to say why you're disputing it. It goes, what are your grounds? Is this you own the copyrighted material? Do you have permission to use the copyrighted material? Or is this a review? Is this a review? When right here it says review. So yeah, they have robots doing their jobs for them. And I expect this video to be open for consumption, but until that, I'm gonna be the earwig. I'm gonna be a spider that crawls in your ear and lays eggs, and all my children are gonna mimic your neurons until what? Until you toe the line. What can I say? All right. So again, I want to thank both of my viewers at this point. Kermit and I want to assume that that's memes of destruction, but instead of assuming that if maybe that's my mom, I don't know. Maybe that's your mom. I don't know. It's one of them. It's one of them. So what did we learn today? If you want to review Disney stuff, it's a pain in the ass. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. I have two more stories that I want to kind of go over. Let's see. So we'll get on that one. Also this week, and this actually made me feel a little bit better. We have learned that Disney, well, that Lucasfilm under the Disney flag essentially has factions. Now, this isn't like math. It's not fractions. This is factions. You have the old guard who either came up with or identify Disney. They identify with the George Lucas version of things and his continuity and his storytelling and his aesthetic, which is hit and miss at sometimes. Yeah, George Lucas ain't perfect, despite what people write in England in the 60s. He's not God. Oh, wait, that was Eric Clapton. But he did have a very cohesive version and rules for his universe and a way to present things. George Lucas is very much a fan of like swashbuckling films and serials in the 30s. So you can see that kind of aesthetic when you watch like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars. Oh, thanks, Kermit. Kermit said that it's actually the other viewer is his mom. So I hope that you're both watching from separate computers. If not, feel free to hold hands and eat popcorn and talk about your good buddy Coyle. And this is interesting too, because I didn't know, Kermit, that amphibious life had that strong of a maternal instinct. But when I think back on it, there is a species of toad who the eggs are buried in the parent's back, and then when they hatch, there's like little wart kids, and they grow up and they have like a little crater that they can live in until they're old enough to take care of themselves. So I want to say that Kermit is watching my stream right now with his mom curled up in her mom crater. So thank you. Let's see here. So we're going to go to two two employees of Lucasfilm who I would consider are from the old guard, the Lucasfilm, the George Lucas version. So here's a Cinema Blend. I think both of these articles are from Cinema Blend. We have Clone Wars Sam Witwer thinks Rian Johnson didn't, quote, do his homework with The Last Jedi by this guy, Adam Holmes. All right, Adam, May 4th, 2020. Okay, 2:59. We got Old Man Luke, Rian Johnson's version of Old Man Luke, about to do the dirty with his blade. Yeah. To say that Star Wars The Last Jedi is a divisive movie would be an understatement. Nearly 2.5 years after its theatrical release, Episode 8 continues to be debated among Star Wars fans, with some liking how writer and director Rian Johnson subverted expectations. We're not going to clip that. And others thinking he failed to hit the mark. Okay. So here we got the Raylos and the Twilight fans, and here they're tacitly suggesting the fandom menace. Yeah. Sam Witwer, who's voiced Darth Maul in the Clone Wars, Rebels, and Solo, a Star Wars story, is amongst the Star Wars fans who's more critical towards The Last Jedi, believing that Rian Johnson didn't do the proper amount of preparation before delving into a galaxy far, far away. As Witwer sees it, I almost want to do a Maul impression, like, The Last Jedi to me felt like a movie made by a guy who hadn't quite done his homework. I think Rian Johnson's a talented guy, but Bruce Lee didn't develop Jeet Kune Do without learning Kung Fu first. You can't reinvent Star Wars without knowing Star Wars first, and he didn't. For me, make a compelling argument for why Luke didn't go and help his sister. Very well said, Sam Witwer. Now you see guys like this, and it makes me wonder what they signed, because Mark Hamill kind of started doing this shit too when the press for The Last Jedi came out. But Disney quickly pulled down his robe and put him over Mickey's knee, and Mark got slapped a couple times and sent to his room without blue milk. So he came back out and he was like, yeah, I said that shit, but I shouldn't have. And I didn't mean it to sound like it sounded, but yeah, it's a good movie and Disney's cool, so go out and see it. We know Mark's one of us. We know Sam Witwer is one of us. Now, here is what I like. Right here. Bruce Lee didn't develop Jeet Kune Do without learning Kung Fu first, which tells me that Sam Witwer gives a shit about martial arts. He's a physically in shape guy. If he's a martial artist, he knows that Bruce Lee learned both Tai Chi Chuan from his father, and he learned Wing Chun from no less than Ip Man himself, which a couple of very successful movies starring Donnie Yen. If you haven't seen Ip Man, go ahead and unfuck yourself. But the historical character Ip Man is the one who taught Bruce Lee Wing Chun. And Jeet Kune Do employed a lot of Tai Chi thinking and Wing Chun economy of motion. But it was a modern take on something that he had literally digested his entire life. Bruce Lee had been doing Kung Fu since he was 5 or 6, and he didn't stop doing Kung Fu until he died. Not only that, but he challenged Kung Fu masters. He fought people in San Francisco who thought that very relevant to the conversation. If you're not Asian, you have no business learning Kung Fu. Bruce Lee said, fuck that. I'll teach whoever wants to learn and whoever shows me dedication. They're like, well, you're going to have to fight for the right. And he whips some motherfucking ass. So yes, you can't invent Star Wars without knowing Star Wars. And Johnson didn't, for Whitwer, make a compelling argument for why Luke didn't go and help his sister. That's a powerful statement right there, and that's one of the chief criticisms. If you go back to the start of The Phantom Menace and you watch Mallard's video on The Last Jedi, Luke is made out to be a curmudgeon. He's like, fuck the Force, fuck your fight, fuck the Jedi, fuck everything. I'm going to go and live on this planet. But I'm going to leave a way to find me on this planet. Just so that when somebody shows up, I can tell them to go fuck themselves. I don't think he would do that. If you guys read the Timothy Zahn novels that concern Thrawn and the Jedi Master Sebaioth, you would know that Luke did his best to train Leia, but when Leia started to sense she was pregnant, and this is what's fucked up about Disney Star Wars, is that they won't acknowledge that shit, but they will pluck from it and turn it into whatever sort of thing they can use. Let's continue. Back to the author. We could spend hours talking about all the little critiques that have been directed at Star Wars. But for the sake of the article, let's just focus on what Sam Witwer brought up while speaking with fans during a Twitch live stream. Skywalker's actions. As a refresher, after Rey found Skywalker in Ahch-To, she learned that the Jedi Master had exiled himself from the planet after inadvertently causing his nephew, Ben Solo, to turn the dark side and become Kylo Ren. That's why Luke Skywalker hadn't been helping the Resistance fight. That's why initially he refused to train Rey, ultimately came back and sacrificed his life, helping the Resistance escape obliteration. But there are plenty of Star Wars fans who believe Luke would never have turned his back on the Resistance, particularly his sister, Leia Organa, in the first place. Correct. Despite having some issues with Star Wars Last Jedi, Sam Witwer, who also played Galen Merrick, a.k.a. Starkiller, very important in the Star Wars Force Unleashed video games, and that's his visage. I don't know if he did the voice. Somebody in the chat let me know. Acknowledged that there were parts of the movie that he admired, as well as noted that it's okay that others will share a different opinion than him on this subject. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because that is actually one of the main tenets of the Phantom Menace. And at our best, we allow for differences of opinion. If you like that movie and you want to fucking be a cheerleader for it and all that kind of stuff, more power to you. Just don't shit on me for disagreeing with your opinion. Your opinion and my opinion are both assholes. They smell like shit, right? So you go do your thing, I'll go do my thing. I'll respect you as long as you don't step on my porch. And I'll not step on your porch. Okay. This is just my opinion, guys. Oh, I should switch back to Maul voice. This is just my opinion, guys. There were a lot of things in The Last Jedi I found compelling in a Rian Johnson filmmaker point of view. They just didn't fit into Star Wars. I don't think he did his Star Wars homework. The themes, what it's about, what the characters are about. But as a standalone film, if I don't know what the Jedi are, or who Luke is, or what he represents, I think there are some compelling things in there. If that's meaningful to you, that's awesome. Excuse me. That's a hard voice to do positively, because when I think about Maul, if I never saw the Clone Wars and I would have only known the Phantom Menace, and he had very few speaking lines in it. I think he said, "At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi," you know. But this is where I think kind of what I was saying about Mark Hamill starts to assert himself. Okay, he's like, Rian Johnson, if you saw the movie by itself and didn't know anything about it, yeah, it was a pretty movie to look at. The sound was great, the music was great. And if you like that, more power to you. I got a jet flying over me, you guys. So. There it goes. Yeah. That's just the government tracking me. Thanks, the government. Okay. So he says, while it was a good film, and if you looked at it in isolation, sure, it's cool. It's a nice space story. But Rian Johnson did not do his Star Wars homework. And this actually, man, this fucker's circling around it. Hang on. Okay, that's his wingman. Rian Johnson did not come from a Star Wars background. And if you read some of the press that he did in the years following The Last Jedi, he would actually say things that are completely 180 degrees from what Star Wars fans actually say. Like, he's like, yeah, you know, I saw the Empire Strikes Back. When 90% of Star Wars fans will tell you that's their favorite movie. He just didn't like it. And then that he purposefully went out of his way to subvert expectations. That's his most famous quote. So Sam Witwer isn't the only member, to return to the author, of the Star Wars family who took aim at The Last Jedi over the last several months. Back in December, John Boyega, who plays Finn, said he was iffy with some choices made for the movie, while Mary Jo Markey, who edited The Force Awakens with Marianne Brandon, said last month that neither she nor Brandon were fans of how The Last Jedi tried to undo its predecessor's story. That's another famous criticism right there, is that Rian Johnson, yeah, he'll say it later on, but Rian Johnson, he took everything that J.J. Abrams tried to set up and he just tossed it aside. Literally every little morsel that could have been something to explain or tease the audience, he's just like, nah, it doesn't matter. Nah, it's bullshit. He explained last summer that the reason he took so many risks with Episode 8 was because he wanted to take the starring characters to new, emotionally honest but surprising places. Is that a good Rian Johnson? New, emotionally honest but surprising places. Like what filmmakers behind the original trilogy did with its characters. Fuck off, Rian Johnson. That does not make any sense. Actually, what the original trilogy characters were, George Lucas had a treatment for the prequels in his head. Now, it was only a couple paragraphs, but what we got of the prequels conforms to those couple paragraphs and explains where everybody came from. This person is related to that person. This chain of events led to this person doing that, and then here we are, pow, Tatooine. Now, what this is trying to, in a roundabout way, say is like, oh, well, you didn't know Vader was Luke's dad, did you? Oh, you didn't know Leia was Luke's sister. Oh, you didn't know that Yoda taught every single Jedi at some point in their life. That's just not how you do it, Rian Johnson. The way that you do it is to take logical leaps. The way not to do it is to do it like you did and go to Disney and suck a bunch of beef curtains and then say, okay, I'll make that story. Fred Meyer has a vacuum on sale for $69.99. It's a pistol clean view. And this is appropriate because Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi, much like this Fred Meyer vacuum, sucks. However you feel about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, commercially at least, the movie did well for itself, collecting over $1.3 billion worldwide, and its successor, Rise of Skywalker, certainly didn't escape earning polarization and reception either. So one can count on both of these Star Wars movies as well. The entire sequel trilogy continue to be debated about in years to come. Very safe ending, very neutral ending to an article written by a guy who's probably not trying to piss off the fandom menace, acknowledging our points of view necessarily, because our point of view mirrors what Sam Witwer just said. Now, right here, The Last Jedi did collect $1.3 billion because the first time we went and saw it, we wanted to see what happened to Luke. And then we saw what happened to Luke, and guess what? You told Luke to fuck off. You told our hero to fuck off. You're telling us to fuck off. And if you're calling us man babies or racists or bigots or anti-vagina for not liking the decisions you made, you can fuck off. Otherwise, you might have made $2.3 billion worldwide. Oh, look at that briquette, charcoal briquettes to make some delicious meat, some steaks, some burgers. In addition to being available on DVD, Blu-ray, and HD digital, you can watch Star Wars on Disney Plus. The 7-day free trial, blah, blah, blah. Keep checking back for more news on the home front. All right. Love that. It's great to be back in America again where things make sense. Okay. Checking back in with the chat. Kermit says, how else would you watch YouTube with your mom? Exactly, K-Log. You would watch it in your mom's crater. That's a kind of Full House family moment that I would love to see and feel. Danny Tanner could emotionally tell me about why it's important to hug people. And we all grow as a result. All right, here's another jet. I'm going to pause to take a quick sip. I would suggest you do the same. Be right with you. All right. In the future, if you would like to audition for The Savage Perspective, hit me up at immortal_coil at Twitter. All right. Back to the races. So we got Sam Witwer sounding off, and he's the voice of Darth Maul, just like we said. We're going to have somebody else sounding off, and much like Sam Witwer, they're very much of the old guard. And this is none other than George Lucas's Padawan, Dave Filoni. Star Wars Dave Filoni loves the Phantom Menace lightsaber fight, but not for the reason you think. Okay? This is more Darth Maul news. This is more Dave Filoni news. But yes, we're getting it from the perspective of somebody who came up under George Lucas's wing, as it were, and taught from practically from the point that he left Avatar, The Last Airbender, how to make Star Wars. Okay? This is kind of like if, I don't know, J.R.R. Tolkien liked your story and decided that he wanted to tell you how hobbits and fucking ring wraiths worked, and then have you write little stories based on that. Okay, this is by Dirk Libby, who looks kind of like Dave Filoni himself on May the 8th. Okay. Star Wars prequels have pretty rough reputation. Amongst the generation that grew up in love with Star Wars thanks to the original trilogy, there's a large feeling that the prequels have a lot of problems. It's not to say that they are entirely without redeeming qualities. There are elements of the prequels that many would say are still good, whether that's a particular performance, an individual scene. While many would seem to have few good things to say about The Phantom Menace, most would admit that the final lightsaber battle in the movie is an epic sequence. Jedi, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Get out of my way, Disney Plus. There are a number of good reasons to love the lightsaber battle between Darth Maul and Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's an incredibly well choreographed fight sequence. Yes, it is. Many would say the best sword fight of any Star Wars movie ever. I wouldn't quite say that. It's pretty good. I thought Obi-Wan and Anakin was a little bit better. I think Vader versus Luke was more emotional, but this fight itself right here was particularly choreographed by Mr. Gillard to show the Jedi at their peak. So the idea that we get from George Lucas was, okay, in Return of the Jedi, you had a dude who was old and half machine versus a kid who was all right, but he wasn't trained in the classical form. Well, this is the Jedi at their height. It's an incredibly well choreographed fight sequence. Many would say the best sword fight. In addition, with the Duel of Fates, it has become, and that's the musical piece by John Williams, it's become one of the most iconic pieces of music in a franchise that one of the best scores ever written. Even Star Wars: The Clone Wars creator and walking Star Wars encyclopedia David Filoni loves the scene, but for a very different reason. And I'd love to hear your perspective, Mr. Filoni. In the second episode of Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, the new look at the making of the first season of the first live-action Star Wars series, Filoni explains the reason he loves the scene isn't because of what it shows, but because of what it represents. Okay, that's a very important statement. The fight isn't about the fight. The fight is about the emotional dynamic between people. And it's the same thing, that tension you feel. You get in an argument with somebody you love, whether it's your spouse, your partner, your brother, your sister, even your kid. You have that, if you could just understand, fuck. And except in this situation, it erupts in a violent conflict. I didn't mean to do that. That's porn. Stop it. Okay. Quoth the Filoni evermore. Shut up, Sephora. Should I do a Dave Filoni voice? I fucking hate this because Filoni is a very good visual artist, but when you listen to him talk, he sounds very effeminate. Okay, I'm not going to do his voice. I just want to represent what he has to say. I love the lightsaber fight with Darth Maul, not because it's a lightsaber fight, but because George is so good at crafting why that fight's important every time. The Obi-Wan Darth Vader fight isn't like the most wonderfully staged combat that you're ever going to see, but there's so much at stake. It's so meaningful when Obi-Wan dies that we all feel like Luke. In The Phantom Menace, you're watching two Jedi in their prime fight this evil villain. Maul couldn't be more obviously the villain. He's designed to look evil, and he is evil. And this is from a guy who's designed many, many evil people. He just expresses that all the way from his face out to the type of the lightsaber he fights with. Excuse me. What's at stake is really how Anakin is going to turn out. Holy shit. I have to check to make sure he's going to talk about that more. Okay. Yes, he does. Matter of fact, get off my screen, car commercial. And in the middle here, we have earwax. That's disgusting. Why is this on my screen? Could this be a garbage tier article? Is that what EVS would say? Okay. Because Qui-Gon is different than the rest of the Jedi. You get that in the movie, and Qui-Gon is fighting because he knows that he's the father figure that Anakin needs. So he's fighting for Anakin. And that's why it's the duel of the fates. It's the fate of this child. And depending on how this fight goes, Anakin's life is going to be dramatically different. Very well said. Very well said. Now, this is what's important. And this is what I'm going to say is the difference between Dave Filoni, whatever the fuck you think about him, and Kathleen Kennedy, is that Kathleen Kennedy and her ilk are more concerned about the physical, the body, the world, which has to mirror our modern world. Okay, so we have to have locales and scenes that we can identify with so that Disney can say, oh, well, there's a fucking Disco brand food dispenser right there on the side of Galcoid 10. We have to have space Latinas because Latinas might be watching this movie. We have to have space Asians because Asians might be watching this movie. And because we want to make a lot of money in China. Okay. Very physical reasons, very much of the realm of the mundane world. But here we have Dave Filoni speaking about psychology and internal things. So the things that are going on inside the characters, which is more than, oh, I'm a girl and I wish that boys would fucking take me seriously. No, this is like this child who is unbelievably force sensitive and has so much force potential. Which road is he going to take? And we all know that Qui-Gon Jinn dies. And I believe with the statement, Qui-Gon is the father that Anakin needed. You saw that from the point where he first discovered Anakin. He had that sense of how the fucking race should go and how he can kind of twist around things so that it was a benefit to his landing party. And had he survived the duel with Maul, Obi-Wan would have, who knows, he would have been his own Jedi Knight in his own sense and had a different apprentice. But Qui-Gon Jinn would have trained and effectively raised Anakin. Because you think about Anakin's position in the Phantom Menace, he went straight from his mom, his mother, who he'd known like the only human, the only love, the only unconditional love his whole life. Yeah, he built droids and fixed ships and did shit for Watto. But that was his constant. And then he found, or Qui-Gon Jinn, they probably found each other. It was a will of force, right? He was so fascinated by this guy. He was so neat. And he is the only person who could possibly have talked Anakin into coming off world with him because he knew what Anakin's dreams represented. And he probably could have tempered Anakin's rebellious tendencies, or at least turned them into something that could have been useful in the galaxy at large as a Jedi. But we don't know this because Qui-Gon died, and suddenly Obi-Wan had this apprentice that he never counted on having, who was closer. There was only 10 years apart. Now, when you're young, yeah, 10 years is a long fucking time. You're a 9-year-old looking up at a 19-year-old. The 19-year-old might as well be an adult. But you know what? You get to be 26 and 16, 17. that doesn't seem to be quite as big a difference. And then you're 19 and he's 29 and you're basically two dudes. So it's interesting that David Filoni perceived this and was able to speak to that point. So then Dirk Libby, yeah, go check him out. He basically says the same thing, but in shorter version of it. It's interesting to think about this stuff. And then if these rumors that there is a great divide, that's not a cunt at Lucasfilm, representing the two ideologies. It reminds me of almost like Catholics and Protestants, where it's like, okay, you're so caught up in the hoity-toityness of this and using it as a tool or political platform instead of a type of philosophy to consider yourself in within an active universe. It's interesting shit. Back to the chat, we have K-Log saying, "Hail Qui-Gon." Yes, hail Qui-Gon. Little known facts about Qui-Gon Jinn. He doesn't know where you are, but he will find you and kill you. I've heard him say this. Qui-Gon Jinn actually also killed a really faggy English lord in Rob Roy. That was very entertaining and very to the point. And then he also trained Batman. See, Anakin wasn't his apprentice. Actually, Batman was his apprentice. Now, yeah, he wanted to blow up Gotham City, and he died for that. But hail Qui-Gon Jinn. Hail Liam Neeson. Hail Trans Fat. And hail the Phantom Menace. All right. We're going to pause and crack open another can. I hope you're enjoying yours. I'm enjoying mine. Okay. We got one last story, and then I'll jump off your jock. I want to say hail to everybody. Thanks for Kermit and his mom for hopping on and paying attention. We got one last story, and this one is somewhat close to my heart. Let's see here. Do this one last time. Gonna get better at this as time goes on. And we're gonna have a race car drive by. All right. All right. We have Marvel Studios has zero plans for Deadpool 3, according to creator Rob Liefeld. We got Deadpool holding up the fucking boom box. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but I am actually a huge Wolverine fan. Gonna go ahead and do a rare screen share right here. Okay. I've gone out of my way to show my appreciation in my physical persona. And this is also one of these reasons, and claws aside, I don't often go on camera live because people tell me I look like mean or something. Yeah, that's not mean. That's just how I look. So. But in the sense of Deadpool, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's my credential. That's me flashing my ID card. I'll pop back to this. Marvel Studios has zero plans for Deadpool 3, according to creator Rob Liefeld. Written by Hoai Tran Bui. I'm sure she's not that hoey. She's probably a very nice girl, and hopefully she cares about Deadpool. So let's see what she has to say about this. In the aftermath of Disney-Fox merger, it was unclear where Fox's X-Men franchise and the more adult superhero movies like Deadpool would go. Deadpool and Deadpool 2 were major R-rated hits for 20th Century Fox, as was Logan. But how would they sit alongside the family-friendly fare made by Marvel Studios? According to Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld. Okay. We'll go ahead and stop right there. If you don't know who Rob Liefeld is, he was one of the premier creators in the 1990s in Marvel, and I think he did some DC runs too. But he was also famous for taking off with other creatives and starting Image Comics. And Rob Liefeld, he created Youngblood, right? So this guy isn't just like he created Deadpool, he created Cable, and what's her name? That lucky girl. I can't remember her name right now. Drunk 3PO. Okay, this motherfucker. Go ahead and stay on cam, he says. He wants to make himself feel more handsomer. So, should I do that? Who cares? Are you one of the 3 people watching me right now, 3PO? Well, shit. All right. Fuck it. Maybe we should. There we go. I'm going to read this article as Wolverine. Okay. You'll see my eyes dart around. You'll see me possibly drinking. Possibly. Okay. How would they sit alongside the family fare? Blah, blah, blah. We may not see another movie starring Ryan Reynolds as a merc with a mouth. Liefeld is casting doubts on whether we'll see a Deadpool 3 now that the X-Men characters are back in the Marvel Studios fold. In an interview with Inverse, Rob Liefeld, who created the fourth wall breaking character alongside Fabian Nicieza. God, I hate it when I can't say fucking last names. Fabio. Look mean and nasty, quotes the 3PO. It attracts all the hairs. Yes. Liefeld is casting doubts on whether, and blah, 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 because Fabio said that he fears the Deadpool movies will have set sail because of Marvel Studios' jam-packed slate of superhero movies over the next few years. Liefeld suggests there's no room for Deadpool 3 and claims that Feige has zero plans for the sequel. This is fucking loud and noisy. The top articles. Gonna get past the bros doing the bro thing, the superhero tits and spinoff rumors. I don't know. Here's what people don't want to hear, but thank God I'm a realist. I feel like Deadpool, the movies, they've all set sail. We got 2 brilliant movies, and we live in a culture that always looks forward because they're all ever selling us is next. It's the fever. For me, as the fever calms down, calms, not clams, people just need to calm down and realize that Deadpool 1 and 2 were released within 2 years of each other, 2016 and 2018. And I just can't, ... I'm really not that crazy about Marvel's plan right now. The plan that Liefeld refers to is Marvel's Phase 4, which includes films like Black Widow, The Eternals, Shang-Chi, and The Legend of the Ten Rings, and follows up to the Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange franchises. Man, I really like Doctor Strange. I don't know what you guys thought, but metaphysics, kung fu, astral projection, it's right up my alley. That phrase probably doesn't include any X-Men movies, despite the characters now returning to Marvel Studios after fans long wished for the characters to cross over with the Avengers as they do in comics. Yes, they do. Fucking Wolverine fought in World War II with Captain America, and he trained Black Widow. That's what we learned in Marvel Comics. This lack of attention for the X-Men characters on Marvel Studios' part has apparently really grinded Liefeld's gears, who ranted that the Eternals and Black Widow are underwhelming follow-ups to Avengers Endgame. This has led Liefeld to assume that this means Deadpool 3 is dead in the dust, despite no confirmation from Marvel Studios chief Kevin Feige, and despite Deadpool star Ryan Reynolds enthusiastically sharing that he is talking with Marvel about returning to the character. We're over at Marvel Studios now, which is like the big leagues all of a sudden, Reynolds recently said. It's kind of crazy, so yeah, we're working on it. Whatever, Wade. I've never known you not to run your mouth, but that can mean a lot of things. I can make a hamburger and say it's 100% beef. I could take 100% beef and add sawdust and jelly in it. But I could also say it's still made with 100% beef. I could say it's made with 100% sawdust. I can say it's made with 100% jelly. All of those facts are true. So let's see if there's anything else that Liefeld said before I editorialize on this. Okay. I think that's it for that. So we're going to power down this because everything's getting quite interesting in the chat lately. So, yes, you can say that your hamburger is 100% beef, but it's also true that it's 100% sawdust and it's 100% jelly. It just depends on how you want to market it. And Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2, I will agree with Liefeld, occurred in this weird bubble where suddenly it was all right to make R-rated superhero films. What does that mean? Well, Logan took a big chance with being R-rated. Hail Logan. And he proved that there was an audience for mature storytelling within the superhero genre, because a lot of those superhero movies told very deep stories where it hit the heart, where it hit the soul, and it hit the very existential questions about what it means to be alive. You know, that's why mutants are so appealing. Everybody feels like they're fucked up or twisted in some certain way. So why not give those ways that were fucked up and twisted a power, a uniqueness in the world? Deadpool was kind of a reaction to that, where we had a very sarcastic dude who kind of looked like Spider-Man, but kind of reacted to the world like Logan would. And his snarkiness kind of hit that late 80s kind of humor, right? Now, Liefeld is not without his share of criticism. He's a very eccentric personality, as most creatives are, but he also has been criticized for his artwork, and he draws very sexy women in revealing postures and all. You know, everybody in the 90s did, and I'm not going to shit on them because of that, because that sold comic books, and I like sexy women in revealing costumes. But one of the things that I think is a valid criticism is that some of his proportions were off kilter. So just Google some of his art and you'll see some of that. But yeah, I think it's very clear that if Deadpool 3 comes out, it's not going to be like 1 or 2. And honestly, I didn't like 2 as much as I liked 1. But they always say there's a sophomore curse, right? You're a sophomore, you get shit on by the seniors anyway. So yeah. Once more back to the chat. We see 3PO has been lurking. Thanks, buddy. 3PO is, we go way back, man. I think the first time I talked to you was on Black Angus's stream, shortly after you emerged from Captain Marvel. You know, and then more to the point, if they don't want to do a Deadpool film, why not rent the character out like Sony did with Superman? That actually ain't a bad point. And honestly, if DC and Marvel want to survive in this shit post-disease world, they might look at doing something like that. Because I'll tell you what, and I'll say this to your face, YouTube, you take people who love Star Wars or love Marvel or love DC as much as we do, you pay us $100,000 each, we'll write you a fucking $1 billion film just because we want to see the characters the way that they deserve to be treated. Now, I'm not saying we'll write the sequel for $100,000, but if you don't do it, big Hollywood studios, one of us will, and it'll just be a fanfic, and we'll get 100 million views, and you'll be like, well, how come we can't do that? Well, it's because we don't have to suck McDonald's dick. We don't have to sell Happy Meals. All we have to do is be authentic to the characters and what they represent. Yeah. Well, I want to appreciate everybody who stuck around for the stream. Once again, this is a young channel and a young idea. I think we'll get more traction in the replays, but hit the like, hit the subscribe button, drop me a comment. Let me know what you want to see covered in the future. Check me out on Sunday. We're going to do our damnedest to get Lethal Lightning on, and we're going to talk some Star Wars EU stuff. So hell to the chat, hell drunk 3PO, hell Kermit the fucking log, hell trans fat, hell cotton connection, and hell the Phantom Menace. And we will talk to you later.